Hello. Thank you for joining our Charleston pre-recorded virtual session, Meeting Users Where They Search, exploring the synergy between library discovery and web-scale search. My name is Matthew Rigucci. I am the Director of Institutional Product Marketing at Wiley. I am joined by Jessica Clemens, the Director of Development Technology from Sage, and also Alice Dotery, the Director of Resource Acquisition and Discovery at the University Libraries, is also a University Libraries Associate Professor at the University of Alabama. Today, we're going to be talking about library and web-scale discovery synergies, taking care of the introduction and housekeeping, but you're going to be hearing from myself first around setting this theme and the stage for how academic discovery typically works. And then we'll be hearing from Jess, who's going to talk about how they leverage web-scale search technologies at Technology from Sage. And last but not least, we'll be hearing from Alice, who's going to talk about her experiences at the University of Alabama in a form of a case study. And then we'll be closing with a quick question and answer segment. So to help set the stage for academic discovery, and full disclosure, I'm a former librarian who works at a publisher now, so my perspective is going to be covering more of the publisher and content provider perspective, but I'm hoping that we paint a broad enough picture for this to be germane to everyone here. And so what I really wanted to start out by saying first is that, using this diagram here, is that the pathways to academic discovery it's a very complex and nuanced landscape, right? So if you're looking at this document from left to right, you can see we have many different user groups. They're not all captured here, but certainly faculty members, researchers, students, fellow librarians, all have research needs at the beginning of the research cycle. And what they're trying to do ultimately is find information to help ultimately construct their research and their findings. And the goal, I think, for any content provider is to help drive and foment that discovery to get to full text access of content, which I have captured here on the right, be it on provider platforms, aggregator platforms, document deliveries, or good old institutional repositories. But the real complexity lies in the middle and where the discovery happens. And as you can see here, there are many different pathways in which a user can take. Some of these pathways are sanctioned and promoted by the library, others are not. The more traditional ones that you're probably familiar with, through the online public access catalog, through the discovery layer, through abstracting indexing databases, agent gateways. There are many things that libraries maintain and promote in information literacy sessions as they educate users on how to best utilize the resources of the library. But it's also important to acknowledge that there's a lot of research that is happening and perhaps even beginning outside the library. And that's the difference between these boxes here, that the bluish teal boxes are really library supported methods of discovery that are maintained by the library, but the orange boxes are discovery that represent discovery that's happening outside of the library: social media, scholarly communication networks. Web-scale search is really what we're going to be talking about today too. So it's our job as content providers to try to reconcile that as best as we can. And I think that we do. What I typically tell a lot of my colleagues on the publisher side is that the discovery investment is so important because it leads to usage, and usage in cases where there are continuing resources, serials, subscriptions, those sort of things, that leads to greater revenue. So it's naturally important for content providers to invest in discovery, infrastructure, metadata flows, things of that nature. And that investment is quite substantial. We certainly invest at it at Wiley, but certainly other content providers do as well, with specific positions dedicated to the proposition of content discovery for the content that they help provide. But also providing quality metadata is so important, not providing stub records, but descriptive, useful metadata that's really optimized and also adheres to industry standards, things like XML or ONIX or KBAR or MARC. Being able to deliver metadata that we produce in an industry standard way, makes it much easier for technology vendors to ingest that data as opposed to using proprietary methods of data delivery as well. But it's also important, as I said, to acknowledge that there are many pathways to discovery. Different users employ different discovery methods, and we're trying to capture as many as we can, and also working in support of the library, who's also doing the same thing. But this varies over discipline, be it humanities or STEM, be it books or serials, or even subscription or open access content. Those pathways are very different. It's important that we acknowledge that, in addition to just monitoring basic discovery trends that are happening in the industry and responding accordingly and making the appropriate investment. I've adapted another workflow diagram here from Julie Zhu, who published in Learned Publishing a few years ago, to demonstrate the complexities that exist in just the data flows and the investment that libraries need to make in order to support library-centric discovery. So if you're looking at this diagram again from left to right, what we do at Wiley after we help publish content is we're sending metadata to various places. We're sending it to vendors like EBSCO and Exlibris. We're sending it to Crossref. We're sending full text articles. We're sending title lists like KBART files. And we're doing all of these things to help support our vendor partners and our library partners, because they make configurations in their discovery layers and their link resolver management tools in the service of the user, so that it's an easier experience for them, that they don't meet as much friction when they find content. There's another discussion here probably about discovery, so I'm not going to hammer on about this. But again, this diagram is really intended to demonstrate how complicated this all is. And if there is a break in any of these black lines here in this diagram, that could be very difficult, a bad experience really for certainly for the provider, for the vendor, but also for the library and end user, because again, content won't get discovered if that data feed isn't going in places where it can be exposed to users. I've talked a little bit about library discovery, traditional library discovery channels, but I did want to present a data point that supports investment in web scale search as well. Looking at the last 6 months of referral traffic on our platform, Wiley Online Library, the good news is that there's still a fair amount of discovery that's happening, or referral traffic coming from our library partners, about 16%, which is great. There's also external sources of referral traffic that we're able to track. I should note we're not able to track everything, but the stuff that we are able to track, there's a trend here, right? Over half of it is coming from either Google, the search engine, or Google Scholar, 51%. And another 19% is coming from Baidu, which is another search engine in China. So almost more than 2 in 3 people coming to our platform are coming from web scale search technologies and search engines. And that's why it's all the more important that we make those investments to support that research pathway as well, to complement the work that libraries do. So we have a collaboration with Google Scholar. We do this in order to make sure that our published content is more discoverable. We have a Google-friendly site design, and it allows not just Google, but it's certainly designed for them, but search engines to navigate our site. Finding all of the content of a specific journal, it uses persistent linking. It's easy to find newly published content as well. We also follow Google best practices for tagging articles, for metadata, things like XML, and we also allow them full text access behind the paywall, so they can actually index, perhaps even more than we have. But we also tell Google what content is free, making that indication of subscription versus open access. But we're also supplementing that with subscription information about the libraries through institutional holdings. And so this really ensures that Google gets the users to licensed versions of content. That's so important that we have that data feed, that it's not just the about of our content, but also who has access to it. And the communications and partnerships piece of this is Wiley, Adapon, our platform provider and a subsidiary in Google, meet regularly. We ensure that Wiley content continues to meet the best practice standards set forward by Google and their indexing practices, and explore areas for partnership. One such partnership is that now Wiley Online Library references They now include links to Google Scholar to get back out there, and improves ranking for our pages with the Google search engine as well. So we're not trying to promote our content over other providers, but certainly utilizing that partnership that we have, leveraging web scale search to really make sure that we're meeting users where we are, because as you've just seen, it's happening in other places in addition to the library. With that, I'm going to pass over to Jess, who's going to talk about how they leverage web scale search technologies at Technology from Sage.
Great. Thanks so much for that, Matt. I'm going to keep my remarks brief because I'm sure everybody's very interested to hear what Alice is going to say as well. It's really nice to be with you all today. My name is Jessica Clemens. I live in Northern New York. I'm also a former librarian, and it's a real treat to be with you, helping libraries from the vendor side of the table. Wanted to spend just a few seconds talking about what Technology from Sage is. Technology from Sage was announced and launched at last year's Charleston conference. So it's amazing to think about all the things that have happened in the past year. And Technology from Sage is a separate business unit from Sage Publishing. So we operate independently, and it is a term that brings together three different products: Lean Library, which is one of the topics that we'll be talking about today. Also Talus Aspire, which is a course reading list and course reserves management system. And SciWheel, which is a citation management and social annotation tool. But that's neither here nor there, because really what Technology from Sage does is it helps to increase and enhance the impact that the academic library can have. So our focus is your focus as an academic library, and our mission is really to help redefine and amplify the power that the academic library has and the community that you serve. With regards to user habits, I wanted to mention our Librarian Futures report. This data comes from the first report that was launched in 2021. We do have a brand new report that's being released at the Charleston 2023 conference, the Librarian Futures Part 3 report. But in this first report, unsurprisingly to most librarians, and despite the library's best efforts, your users are creatures of habit. So they're comfortable and familiar going to Google and Google Scholar. And unsurprisingly, that is where the vast majority of students and faculty, that's where they begin their search. So it's outside of the library from different areas, different search engine, and Google and Google Scholar are taking most of the lion's share. So the problem there is, how are you going to get your investment in library collections front and center in front of your patrons who might not know where to go for the library website? They might not feel comfortable using the library website, or another reason. You know, you're spending a tremendous amount of time, energy, and money investing in library collections. How are we going to solve this problem? And that's where Lean Library comes in, because Lean Library is a browser extension that puts the library subscription content front and center into the patron's workflow. So when they're on the Wiley website, when they're on Google Scholar, when they're anywhere else on the web, if there's library subscription content, Lean Library surfaces that right where the users are. So they don't have to accidentally buy the article. They don't feel that it is unavailable to them, and they can leverage scholarly academic resources right where they're searching. It's pretty easy to do this, all things considered. Lean Library is not another knowledge base that you have to spend time and money investing in. Lean Library knows every article and ebook that your library has a license to. We do that through your ILS. We also know all of the domains and licenses that you have for your aggregated content. And we know who your users are, because we can connect through your authentication method. And what that does is it unlocks the content to all of your library subscriptions on the open web. That's not all Lean Library does. So the first path is leveraging the investment that you have in your library collection. You're taken to that full text article that you're paying for. The second path is directing users to an open access version. So if your library subscription doesn't cover a particular article, if we're able to find a DOI that connects to that OA version, it's seamless for the end user. And the third path is connecting through your document delivery or interlibrary loan service. So at the end of the day, you are able to provide support where your users are in whatever way that's most economical and efficient for you and your library and your workflows. So it benefits both sides there. A couple things that I think are important to note. The transition to electronic resources has only been enhanced, exacerbated by the pandemic. I hear from libraries over and over again that they're not even buying print books anymore. So again, this is unsurprising, especially to the group joining us today, that electronic content is here. It's the leader. It's where the future is as well. So we're also a solution that has extensive ebook coverage. So it's not just the journal articles and the open access content. We're able to surface ebook content too, to get more of that ROI on that particular investment. We streamline your access to that aggregator sourced content. We have the extensive open access content. We integrate with your document delivery and interlibrary loan services to facilitate patron requests and, answer responses wisely. But I think the most important thing on this slide is that it's not just an access tool. It brings the librarian and librarian support into your patrons' workflow. So they know who's doing it, they know how the help is being articulated and described, and they know that the library and the librarians are there to help them in their teaching, learning, and research. So that's something that I think is really important to note, that you're getting credit where you're putting your efforts. I have just a few more data points to share with you. So TFS is a global company. One of our partners in the UK, part of their health system, NHS Mercy Care, they are using Lean Library, and they've seen some truly dramatic increases in their subscription content since they've been leveraging Lean Library. I'll point out Wiley just because Matthew's here with us today, but pre and post Lean Library over a specific amount of time, that increase has grown by a third. Some of them are even more dramatic with, a 71% increase and a 66% increase. But all of this is a good indication that, your users need help to access and fully utilize your collections. There are different versions of Lean Library. One of them is our workflow for LibGuides. So if you're a library who's using any of the SpringShare products, particularly LibGuides and LibAnswers, that's another librarian curated support that can bring the patrons back into the workflow. Or bring your LibGuides into the patrons' workflow. So all of that curated expertise, all of that information that you want to share with your patrons, it puts it right on the website, right where your patrons are, giving the library credit and support for your patrons. A great example from the University of Utah, or Utah State University, is just showing the increase in their Google LibGuide over a specific period of time. You can see how drastically that's grown, and that's just a simple functionality that Lean Library can offer. So again, it's all about increasing the impact that the library can have and helping your patrons at every point throughout their workflow. So now I'm going to turn it over to Alice to show us what that looks like at a real institution.
Thank you so much, Jessica and Matthew. It's a real pleasure to be with you presenting today. The University of Alabama is the flagship university of the state. We received R1 research status in 2018, and we are one of the fastest growing research universities in the United States. This fall, we have record-breaking enrollment with nearly 40,000 students and our largest freshman class ever. Their average GPA is 3.87, and more than 40% of our freshman students have a 4.0. They are bright and studious. they find value in using tools that help them succeed in their academic endeavors. One of these tools is Lean Library. Lean Library is a simple yet robust browser-based extension that connects users with content in a seamless and efficient way. It can work on or off campus and offers a just-in-time delivery of library resources at a student's point of need. The University of Alabama began working with Lean Library in fall of 2021, and we initiated a soft launch that took advantage of the browser extension, with additional Lean Library features being incorporated into the administrative end for a fuller marketed launch by April 2022. University Libraries has embedded this customized instruction page on our database's A to Z page, which can then, because of the interoperability of the SpringShare products, link out to multiple liaisons library LibGuides. Often, the Lean Library link appears in the most useful links for accessing library resources. One of the features of Lean Library Access is its ability to enhance user search while on websites like PubMed and Google Scholar. In a 2016 College and Research Libraries article surveying 4 years of incoming freshman students, 70% of the studied population responded that the majority of information that they use for their research papers comes from the web. It's not a surprise. When you think about some broad differences between tools like Google Scholar or a library's discovery layer, one aspect is evident, and that is that searching Google Scholar isn't as restricted because the metadata is structured to favor full text. In addition, Google is consistently crawling the internet, scraping its content, and updating its search algorithm. So perhaps the ability to find and locate full text materials is more robust there. Also, I don't know anyone who hasn't heard of or doesn't use Google. It's our jobs as librarians to close any gaps that prevent students from accessing licensed library content and vetted open access scholarship. Lean Library helps librarians offer seamless experiences to their users. For instance, students might not even realize that within Google Scholar, their institutional affiliation is not automatically initiated just because they are using their institution's web network. Without this information, students would miss out on access points that link into licensed library resources. What's helpful about Lean Library is that when it is integrated into Google Scholar, the Lean Library product will automatically detect and assign the user's institution to the student's profile and then link them to the available full text from their academic library. Lean Library can incorporate the authentication functionality of Open Athens or Easy Proxy. I believe Jessica mentioned that earlier. And it also utilizes the open URL linking from the library's discovery layer, allowing users to have a very robust search experience. Students and researchers will gain direct access to the content the library subscribes to. You'll notice in this image 2 additional services provided in the enhanced search highlighted by the 2 arrows. The arrow on the left points to the Altmetrics site score, which I will mention more of later. And the arrow on the right not only highlights the full text linking from the native database interface and the utilized open URL, but also the option to sign up for the table of contents alerts as noted by the Get Alerts link. Another feature of the enhanced search through Lean Library is this ability to highlight text on any web page at any stage in your research, whether on or off campus, and create a search that auto-populates or channels the information into the library's discovery layer for further searching. This feature is simply activated by highlighting text that you'd like to explore further, right-clicking to open the menu options, and selecting the Search at Your Library, Lean Library feature. You'll see in the next slide the ease at which users are directed into the library's licensed content through this enhanced search integration between Lean Library and the Discovery service. So here is an example of the highlighted search. And this is within the library's authenticated discovery layer that Lean Library provided access to. In addition, when looking for materials, if the content you want doesn't seem accessible or is behind a paywall, Lean Library will automatically deliver any open access version that is available. Furthermore, if no open access is available, you can program Lean Library to route patrons into your interlibrary loan service. But circling back to open access, for librarians, there could be room to discuss whether or not more could be done to enhance the access of OA content in a discovery layer. Often in those systems, the facets used to narrow searching are limited to full text or not full text. There's not necessarily a limiter or a facet specific to open access content. Furthermore, behind the scenes, managing, maintaining, and troubleshooting access content in a discovery layer can be challenging and can require a good amount of staff time and effort to locate new open access materials and prevent areas of link malformity or link rot. Here's another example where Lean Library redirects students to find the library's full text. In this case, it's for an ebook. But also keep in mind what I mentioned earlier, that if a paywall is present, there is available the option for interlibrary loan. At the University of Alabama, we have Lean Library set, so our interlibrary loan form is auto-populated with the metadata necessary for staff to make borrowing requests from other academic lending libraries. This is the example of the CiteScore altmetrics that I wanted to share with you. CiteScore altmetrics uses smart citations of articles. The citations are broken down, which you'll see on the left side, into different quantitative and qualitative categories that display not only the counts of the citations, but also identify if the citation either supports the content of the article, provides a contrasting piece of information about the article, or it just is neutral and only mentions the work. In addition, what is particularly nice about Lean Library's products is the ability to embed and manage placement of library-related student support services, such as a chat service or the LibGuides, and also other library access points for non-library managed websites. Here are two examples using the Library Assist messaging. The first is for Financial Times. This is just on the web at ft.com. And when our students go there, a pop-up instructing them to create a different account through the libraries lets them know that we have access to this content, but that they have a little bit of work to do on their end. The second is for TuscaloosaNews.com. Again, we have full text digital content available through the libraries, and we direct our patrons and students there when they go to this website. Overall, Lean Library allows for very granular customization. Beyond colors, logos, and other branding throughout, libraries can take advantage of the many features through the Access and Assist functions that allow for customizable pop-ups that provide point-of-need instruction, announcements, chat assistance, redirects to other location, enhanced search mechanisms, and delivery of full-text content. That's all I have for today. I appreciate everyone coming, and we're going to pause for questions.